Ooh.
Hey everybody, welcome back to your favorite media reaction show, talking TV, comics, and more. This is X's for Show, and you can check us out all over the place at here. As for me, I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION.
I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And I'm your producer, Kevo, and you can find me at Kevo Reilly, and we are talking comics.
So many comics. TK, you came to me with a plan, sir. You came to me with a plan to compress an entire season into a season finale.
Yeah.
And I
think
happier.
it's for the best.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this was like a couple of weeks of reading, but also a lot of reading for stuff today.
It's weird because it's 4 weeks of reading for some events, and then it's like 1 week for another. So stuff's a little all over the place right now.
Yeah, you know, there is a real sense of discorporation along the entity of the Marvel event scale. You know, when you think about the Marvel event scale, there's Live, Cree, or Die, the 4-part Quicksilver Luke Cage mini event from 1998 or whatever. Then there's Secret Wars. And, you know, there's stuff closer to Secret Wars, but not quite like House of M. And there's stuff like close to Live Cree, like Messiah Complex. But what we are definitely facing right now is a crisis of identity. Oh God, that was not on purpose. Sorry, did not mean to be distinguished competition. I am secretly dressed as Sinestro though. Let's just but the bigger problem that I'm facing is like it's like there's a GPS that doesn't know where it's going with these events. And if you're asking me what would I prefer as per our big question, like little smorgasbordy events or like one big event like Judgment Day, I would prefer a good one. So like neither.
I mean, that's I did set you up for that answer. That is where we find ourselves. You know, we got to Judgment Day and we're not super impressed. I think it felt weird taking a break from big Krakoa stuff if you're an X-Men fan to do this whole event that really felt like, you know, Nene Leaks. Now, why am I in it? Like, why were the X-Men here in the first place? It's very
I agree. Why was WikiLeaks involved?
This very much felt like one of Tony Stark's stupid schemes that the Eternals had to deal with, but why were the X-Men there? And it was enormous, and we were promised nothing will ever be the same. And of course, we're always promised that, but when you see the giant machine gods that run the universe show up, you kind of think, okay, they might actually do a thing here. I think we all thought when House of M happened that it was like, okay, this is just another Age of Apocalypse and stuff will come out of it, but it won't be that big a deal. And then we got something kind of huge out of it. And I have sort of always braced for that kind of impact, even when it's bad impact. And this time around, we really got nothing. Like, we really got nothing. The biggest thing that happened was that Cersei died, which is like the smallest impact thing that also everybody hates. So it had a huge impact of just like, you took away the one cunty Eternal. Like, that's the only thing we wanted. The entire brand only had one thing going for it. It was the cunty Eternal, and you got rid of her. So what do we have now? The next best one is Eros, and he's a rapist.
You know, and so, okay, but can I for a minute? One of the things about the Eternals that drives me crazy is they're not interesting.
Yeah.
But they could be.
Yes.
And so if you're asking me though,
I wasn't, but you're gonna
you will anyway. Because when I give you the setup, you're gonna say,
I should have asked.
What would I prefer?
Yeah.
Somebody to take the Marvel Cinematic Universe Eternals or the Marvel Comics Eternals and develop them into a more fleshed out thing, or somebody to take the Tetley Tea mascots, Gaffer, and I forget the other one, and the Keebler Elves, and develop a really complex universe around them. I gotta be honest, I'm leaning breakfast foods.
Yeah, 100%.
Because the Eternals, you know, I love every time I read these the actors from the Returnals.
The Returnals.
When I read the reactions from the reactors from the Returnals, and they're all like, honestly, it's just that critics didn't get it. And I want to be like, but then neither did audiences. And neither has time. Because that's the one that's got me a little bit. And that's why I'm bringing up the Eternals in regard to Judgment Day. We walked away from Judgment Day going, oh, but this one's going to hit different in a year. You know, and we kind of walked away from House of M feeling the same way. People were much more into House of M at the time and then really weren't for a minute. And then they seem to have come back around on it, which I guess is just onslaught for you. But
well, I think we all just really hated No More Mutants.
I like No More Mutants 10 times more than I like House of M.
Keep going.
Honestly, 200 characters that I can actually care about instead of fake versions of a bunch of characters where they are at best edgelord versions of themselves who lack any nuance or character development. I'll always take seeing characters I love in a struggle instead of other things wearing my characters' bodies.
I get you. It would become so complex to talk about this. It's the fact that they destroyed mutant culture and mutants as like a population, and you know, people just hated that. I loved the statement of the impact. Like I said, I walked away from that event like, oh boy, that mattered. Literally nothing will ever be the same, and nothing was. Like, even as we have repowered mutants in the Krakoan era, nothing was the same when that started. Nothing was like it was in the House of M days. And when it restarts again in June, it's not going to look anything like it did back then, almost 20 years ago at this point. So they really, nothing will ever be the same after House of M. They bought that. They paid for that. What?
So I was rolling my eyes so much, trying to see what was happening as my brain was folding in on itself, as I realized something when you said June. And you said, oh, well, in June. And I was like, oh, when Scarlet Witch reboots. And the reason that stuck in my head is because we're talking about House of M.
Yeah.
And the hint that was given in Steve Orlando's Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver #1, that we're going to see a revision of the revision of the revision that took Scarlet Witch and Wanda from the Maximoff lineage proper and made them Golden Age.
To the Lensher lineage. The Maximovs are the adopted parents.
Yes. Well, actually, no, but now they're other people. Now they are the Wizard and Miss Americas.
No.
Well, they were at one point.
So a long time ago, it was them. But
right.
It was always Django and Maria who actually physically had them.
Right.
And then it became that they are actually Django and Maria's kids that got experimented on by the High Evolutionary. So they're always Maximovs in some capacity. That can't ever change because that's who raised them. But are they or are they not Lenchers? Or Eisenharts now? And see, this is even the thing. We're like 8 layers of stuff. Magneto is different people. People are always talk about how we shouldn't poo-poo this whole situation too much because it invalidates found family and adopted family and like parental unification. And I would agree. I never want to do that. The thing is, they met him as an adult that abused them and used them as weapons. And it took decades of publishing for him to be a barely not horrible father. Then he was still crazy abusive up through House of M. And then we were in just kind of no man. So there's no real time in which, like, thank God Magneto was our dad. He loved us so much.
Except that is how they talk about it now.
I know.
That is, and so, but part of the whole thing I'm so glad we're talking about it in this way, is because the whole Bendis era is being invalidated.
Yeah.
The Avengers are back to being the original Avengers. The new Avengers are kind of nothing. Everybody is sort of redistributed to their areas, right? But the thing that I can't get past is this idea that when Magneto comes back, he's gonna be Magneto. Wait, no, what's Magneto? Tell me. What is Magneto? Is he the crazy terrorist from the 60s? Is he the complex man searching for answers in the 70s? Is he the good guy in the 80s? Is he the half terrorist, half Fabio from the 90s? Is he New X-Men? Is he Excalibur on Genosha? Who are we getting? And how are they building an entire crossover around it with, and then not kind of, you know what I mean? Like the way in which we have incrementized this whole experience. Also, I do just want to say thank you so much for joining us, Cyborg. We think you're awesome. We love having you. But I really do find myself curious as to what they're playing at with these events, because it's amazing when an event goes from an event to a title like Spider-Verse, and it's amazing when an event goes from an event to an arc like Sabretooth War.
And to that end, I mean, you made the best point already. Like, I would just rather an event be good. It can be a 4 or 5 issue, like Spider-Verse. I kind of vacillated between putting Edge of Spider-Verse up for here or doing Ultimate Spider-Man, which had its issue 2 today, because they're both kind of events, whether or not, like, I mean, like, Ultimate Spider-Man is becoming an event in the fact that, like, it's Hickman's best-selling book in a while. It's kind of changing the game. It's the one thing bringing new readers in lately.
This is Fraction Hawkeye.
Exactly. Meanwhile, unfortunately, Hickman's Gods has tanked, and while it was pitched as an ongoing, and they said, yeah, you know, assuming people like it and it does well, it will be an ongoing. And I think they said that, like, which you obviously will, and it is ending at issue 8 because we did not like it. It was inscrutable. So Hickman is what?
Issue 8, but issue 38 of content. And that's part of what we have so much trouble talking about, because Hickman was like, I'm precious. 3 issues in 1 book.
Yeah,
and
there is a lot of, you know, he fills things up the way he wants. But either way, like, this was not the next big thing. This is canceled. And, you know, Ultimate Spider-Man, on the other hand, is huge. And the event is that, you know, Hickman got another hit on his hand from something that if you put these two in front of me and said which one will be great and which one will be terrible, I would say Gods will be great. Ultimate Spider-Man would be terrible. Gods is a great idea. Ultimate Spider-Man is a terrible idea. And it is the exact opposite, both in terms of, like, having read them now, my feeling is that Gods is not great. Ultimate Spider-Man's fantastic. But sales-wise, this is what's happening as well. So anyway, I ultimately went with Edge of Spider-Verse because I think Spider-Verse being a repeat event, a repeat thing that keeps happening, is worth talking about. But, like, I'm really kind of torn in my thoughts. I would kill to see an event that knocked my socks off, a Judgment Day style event, a whole Marvel Universe crossover that knocked my socks off. I think really, while it was fun and it was a cute summer, even Secret Wars did not knock my socks off, because the thing is, it does have to impress at the destination as well as in the journey. The journey for Secret Wars was fantastic. Those books were fun as fuck. It was great to be in all those little universes. It was great to see some faves come back to play around in a tiny little sandbox of stuff, that ideas that they'd had that couldn't be main universe ideas anymore. So fun. But at the end, Reed Richards tells his son to throw the universe back in place, and we are right where we started.
Oh, Heroes Reborn. Got it.
Blammo. And so, you know, I would love a big crossover event that could do all that stuff. I don't know that I really ever need another one of these kind of, I'm never hankering for a smaller scale. You know, I'm not super hankering for Blood Hunt that's about to come out. I'm not super hankering for something like Fall of the House of X and Rise. Basically, the event is now the end of the Krakoan era. Like, I don't know exactly what the official title for all this is, because Fall of X was a limited thing that ended when Fall of House of X started.
The fandom has it listed as the Fall of the House of X.
I know, which
event.
Is so annoying, because that's one book that has a tie-in book that's Rise of the Powers of X. And increasingly, I think that only is the case because Marvel didn't want to say end of the Krakoan era till a bit later in the publishing schedule. Because now they've started saying that. And now they've started marketing on the idea that it's the end of the Krakoan era. And all of these books that I'm talking about are end of the Krakoan era books. They're books that tie into the same thing, which is shutting down all the remaining story threads here.
So something that I'm really hearing with you mentioning gods and how gods is a bonk, and how Secret Wars kind of even wasn't what we wanted it to be.
No.
When somebody like a Tyler Posey has a nude leak and becomes more famous from it, it's a celebrity moment for them, right? And then when they try to recreate it by creating an OnlyFans page, all of a sudden that artifice is on it. All of a sudden there's a taste that it's like, but now it's for the money. It's not the magic of the accident they're embracing. And then when they try to make a career, it's why nobody ever says, I love that this celebrity's dick pic leaked. I'm going to try and buy sex from them. Because there's a huge difference between this person so good at this idea, and I promise the experience you will personally have will be unlike anything you've ever had. And I think that is where gods fell short. That is where Judgment Day fell short. And, I'm so glad Kevo jumped in to answer this, because I really think that this is, Cyborg, I'm going to be honest. Your question is, do you prefer comics or do you crossover comics, or do you prefer single story comics? I actually think what I really truly prefer is a healthy understanding of the balance. Something that I'm really enjoying right now, and not just because I'm on a big Green Lantern kick, but because it's something I can point to. There's 4 titles. There's Green Lantern Alan Scott, there's Green Lantern, there's Green Lantern War Journal, and there's Sinister Sons. So there's 4 books. One of them is just about a bad guy. One of them is about the Corps. One of them is about Hal Jordan, the most special fucking Green Lantern, most annoying character of all time. Can't stand him. And then one is about the hot gay one with his big bear boyfriend. And so they're 4 very different books that kind of understand each other and coexist in a community. I don't need 200 titles. I need 5 titles that seem like they belong together, which is what, just to bring up a recent crossover that did it way better than Gang War, no offense, Gang War, Devil's Reign. There you had Daredevil versus Kingpin for the soul of New York City in a way that felt relevant and exciting and engaging for 40 books, even when some of them kind of clunked.
Fantastic example with Devil's Reign 2, because not quite nothing will ever be the same, but we will be initiating a clear and present status quo change. That ends, Wilson is no longer the mayor. Wilson literally gets on a boat and sails away, which takes them to Krakoa, which I think should have been a whole sea change era for Krakoa, and unfortunately we just didn't get there. But we got the promise of it. Chip Zdarsky and co. did the work there. We set sail, we got rid of that. Daredevil took his next step in the journey to completing this prophecy and finishing the Red Fist saga. A bunch of other smaller status quo changes and things that developed, but it was a solid amount for a book that was this is all taking place in, a square mile radius in the gay part of Manhattan. Huge ramifications, and they didn't overpromise on that. They said, big things happening in Devil's Reign, and big things happened. Whereas, again, I point to God himself was resurrected into his decaying body by a bunch of horrible people and said that he would judge the whole world and kill us all, and nothing changed. That God got turned into a weird Kaminoan alien from Star Wars, and Cersei disappeared. Those are the only 2 real repercussions we got out of it. You can point to some other really tiny things, but I'm going to kill all 8 billion of you to one of you died is not a thing. That's not an event. That is not a whole summer. That's not everything that we paid for. And when you compare that to people are fighting in Manhattan, I think it really is feasible to do good events, good, interconnected crossover events. And to Nico's point, I prefer that editorial creatives and publishing understand the ecosystem they're working in and what flourishes in what soil, and that they plant their garden accordingly, because what we're seeing right now is just grab a whole bunch of seeds out of the bucket and throw them around and question mark, we'll see what happens.
Well, and to that end about miserable buckets, which, by the way, my personal favorite thing in the universe is my dog Bucky, and we call him Bucket when he's being stupid. But anyone who's ever had a dog that is an excited creature understands sometimes they are just stupid. But speaking of dumb things that make me whimper like a dumb dog, I am having a lot of trouble with Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of 10.
Yeah.
In part because what I am experiencing is almost like system shock. I've had like piercings on like a bunch of surfaces all over, and there were some that like felt like, oh my God, my fucking head. Oh my God, what did I just do? The pain. And then it like goes away. But when I had my nipple pierced the first time, I literally went into full shock and like started sweating profusely, became cold and hot, couldn't breathe. I literally couldn't process something that I was, number one, sure I understood, was so in on, had already had it done other places and other ways. There was something that I expected. Like when I read these, they would be like any other shock to my system in regard to a crossover experience. What I'm finding here is there's a disjointed sense of these two authors who have so much at stake professionally, Jerry Duggan and Kieran Gillen. While certainly nobody's looking to Kieran Gillen to stick this landing for the sake of his career, I think that there is a very heavy weight on Jerry Duggan's shoulders to make sure that this lands. This is his big moment, and I feel like, for what it's worth, this feels like trying to pack an entire college semester into a summer session. It's really difficult to get all of this into the page space allowed, and I think the thing that's suffering the most is the data pages, because now every page reads like a fucking data page. There's so much dialogue and so much exposition, and there aren't a lot of data pages to be looked at.
Yeah, the data page for Rise of Powers of 10 today was real weird. Because they explain the entire thing that is the data page in dialogue, and then the data page is inscrutable. It doesn't help at all. And it just seems like Hickman's really cute idea of doing data pages, which flourished early on in the Krakoan era, suddenly became a requirement. And I love the people...
do the sexy thing. Do the sex. Give them the sexy.
That's for me. And I love the people who thought outside the box and were like, I'll turn it into letters. I'll stylize them as script, like, written letters. It won't just be like Dear Beast on a typewriter, but those were fine too. I really appreciated when people thought outside the box a little bit, because just there are times where a Hickman-esque data page is just not where it's at. And in particular, I just think, I think you're making a really good point insofar as like, I would maybe even rather a one shot, like just the Orcus files or something, Strife's burn book all over again. Just like, I don't.
Daniel Summers is a fugly clone.
Here it's not helping anything. And I realized that like I was about to shit on Jerry Duggan a little bit, which I will still be doing, because Fall of House of X has some real difficult writing moments for me just throughout it. I don't think it is the strongest book. I don't think it is Duggan's strongest work. It does feel really rushed and a little bit under duress. And I don't really know what to do with it, but the resignation letter from MODOK is extremely funny. That was an extremely funny data page.
It wasn't, it wasn't, pal. I hear it. Why was MODOK here?
I like that MODOK was there. I mean, I like that MODOK was recruited by Orcus. It did become one of those things where they were like, MODOK, as you know, infamous mutant hater, who he has always been. And it's that thing that X-Men publishing does, and then stupid fandom backs him up. It's okay if you guys just have a new idea and, like, you know, you just bring a random person in. You know, if you're gonna make Adrian Toomes, come on. Oh, if you're gonna make Vulture into an X-Men villain, just go ahead and do it. Like, that's fine. It doesn't.
Kraven.
You don't need to. Kraven, anybody, you can just go ahead and do it. Nobody needs some, like, oh, he's always hated the X-Men, as I can point to from one issue in the 60s where he goes, damn that Xavier. I don't really need that. It's fine. They're just villainous people. That they show up somewhere is fine with me. So the one thing I haven't liked about MODOK is it is that repeated thing that keeps happening where Marvel goes, oh, and as we know, this person has always hated the X-Men, and this is finally them getting their revenge. No, they haven't. I don't care if they fought before. MODOK is kind of a random villain, but he's also a science maniac. So, of course, he joins up with Orcus, and that's totally fine, and it's funny. What kills... for me, what really killed the humor of the MODOK moment is the fact that you immediately preceding it have a ha insane villainous laugh from Stasis, who escapes in an escape pod, and then you flip the page and it is immediately ha villainous hysterical laugh from MODOK.
Jack my swag.
And the MODOK one is funny because then he has his resignation letter at the end. The Stasis one is also not funny because Stasis is embroiled in a cosmic outside time and space, possibly changing the Marvel universe forever just by cosmology, not by event politics thing happening. So him doing an insane laugh, that's not where the character is right now. The character has to deal with his 4 clone brother and sisters and their father, the most powerful being in literally the entirety of all existence. So it kind of just feels like maybe he didn't need to do the villainous escape laugh, especially if we're just going to do another one.
And part of what, like, I'm really hoping that we find out that the thing that achieved Dominion is Mystique as Sinister, because it was the only way they could beat Sinister or something. I need something where Dominion can't be defeated easily, because I keep being told in these 2 issues that Dominion is literally omnipotence and omniscience. It is all-knowing and all-capable, and it is literally reality now. Except it can't figure out what some telepaths broadcasting their thoughts are doing. It's that thing where, like, you tell me that a fighter is the greatest fighter of all time, and then I see somebody, like, kick them from behind when they're also a telepath, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have made somebody so unbeatable. Because the problem is, by engaging Dominion in the way they have, I was so frustrated by today's issue. I really want to like Rise more than I like Fall, but I don't. And part of that has to do with, I feel nothing for the characters in the No Place, because they don't feel like characters. They feel like plot devices. I feel like Rachel is just telepath, period. And if you think she's got a personality in there, she might, but it literally is just a snark away from being Emma Frost sometimes. And other times it's just a coldness away from being Psylocke. Because this isn't a story where people have personalities. This is a story where people have functions. And in that regard, it's things like Moira. What is contacting Moira? Is that Phoenix? No,
that's Enigma.
It's Enigma. Okay.
Yeah.
So Enigma contacts Moira. Great. But then that's another wrinkle I don't want now. That's literally a wrinkle I don't want now. Because this isn't the place where you get to do, oh, there's good and bad on both sides of the aisle. Maybe Moira's still got things. No, I need something, because the thing that I care about with the X-Men isn't how you resolve the plot. It's the characters. So that I have now spent 8 months with everybody stuck in the exact same character moment and are now being sacrificed willy-nilly on the page. It's graceless.
Yeah. Graceless is kind of the right word. I accept that we are moving to the end and that we've got to wrap stuff up and get somewhere. I really don't appreciate so much writing where it basically, it's Professor Xavier saying unchallenged that Krakoa was entirely a terrible idea and we've got to go reset it. And we may get to a point at the end where somebody goes, no, it wasn't actually, like, we're going to do something else. But it does feel like we are having this kind of passive-aggressive conversation between a readership that thought this was a phenomenal idea and that it really meant something to people. And it really spoke to...
People got license plates.
People did get license plates. It really spoke to a need and an interest. And it's okay to move on from something like that, but that the entire thing has become like, we gotta burn this thing to the ground and reset. And even if that is functionally not what happens from a plot perspective, it is what's happening all over the books. Like, this could have easily become, hey, we've seen that Krakoa is really complex, and a lot of us, the ones that you have known as the X-Men, are going to step away and let, other people rule this land. Let, mutants that need it a lot more than we do, mutants that suffer from being visibly mutant, who need a safe place to live. We're going to let you govern, and it's going to be your world. We're going to go back to Westchester and, rethink our lives. That there was a way to get there that would have been perfectly fine, but that this whole thing has come down to genocide, murder, everybody's dead, we got to burn the whole thing to the ground, nothing will ever be the same, everybody is on fire.
And they found a creative new thing that the X-Men have never done before. I couldn't believe that they thought of something the X-Men had never done before. They're calling it Trader X. There has never been an X-Trader before, so good job there, guys.
Yeah, fool me once. I came into the X-Men right when Bishop showed up to say that there was a traitor in their midst, and I spent my comic years growing up waiting to find out who that was. And when I found out through the issue where Jean Grey revisits the time that Professor X said he wants to have sex with her,
334.
that he's the traitor, biggest disappointment of my childhood life. I will not be getting excited for whoever this is, and you can't convince me to.
Because who can it even be?
Right.
Like,
there's no satisfying answer.
Who? Like, I mean, could Moira be Traitor X? Could that somehow be the reveal that she's somehow worse than we know? Could it be Mystique? Could it be Destiny? Could it be Xavier? Could it be Hope? And what is the trading? What is the traitorization? What is the thing? Is it Cypher? Does Cypher somehow, in an effort to speak more languages, become part of Dominion? Well, if that's the case, then you wasted 3 years not doing anything with Cypher. His wife, Bay, doesn't come up in any capacity in anything he's in. There is such a lack of interest from me for where we are, especially because they're not even letting us be excited about this anymore. They've told us to stop. They said, take your excitement, put it in a box, put that box away, and, put it all in a box to the left. And because the truth is, these X-Men are super duper replaceable. And we are going to see one-shots from Wheezy. No, it's Gail and Anne, right? It's Gail Simone and Anne Nesenti.
Gail has the story in the Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, that's hyping Blood Hunt. Thank God something's hyping 60 issues of Blood Hunt.
And it does feel like the worst kept secret in comics right now is that she will have a book in From the Ashes. Marvel is so disappointing when it comes to women writers right now that is no longer feeling like a safe secret. We'll get to the exact reason why that is the case in just a moment. But yes, we've got Gail writing a story, not even a full one-shot right now. And we have Anne Nesenti, who got a giant-sized X-Men.
Well, you know what? I shouldn't be knocking it, because look how important Ultimate Spider-Man giant size was.
Oh, boy.
I think the thing that I'm angriest about is that Marvel is having just as much of a problem in their comic universe as they are in their cinematic universe. All the rumors are right now that no, it is true. They are gutting Kang. Kang is done. They're going to try and minimize or completely excise Kang from all of this and embrace things in a new way. And I can't help but feel like that's kind of what they're doing here with things like House and Fall and Rise and Powers. Honestly, I have to give Fall of House a C plus and Rise a B minus, because one of the things that I'm really finding myself so frustrated by is when I was looking for images for this issue, I came across Powers of 10 #2, and I just felt so sad because when that cover of so many Moiras and all of the reveals of Moira, I was just ready to say this was it. Moira founded the X-Men. I thought they were going to refocus everything around this. I thought they had found the idea for a change. And they just threw it away. So the best I can give this at all is a B minus. But even then, I feel like I'm being generous because I think Kieran Gillen is a very cute man.
Yeah, I do think it's a C for Fall of the House of X for me. Duggan is not my favorite writer, but I do think he is good at... Duggan is not my choice to write stuff a lot of the time. He's not the person that I want to see on a lot of my regular titles. I think there are places where he makes the absolute most sense. And when he's there, Iron Man, great example. I think Iron Man is a solid B to B plus book that I think he does well on. I think Iron Man is not doing well with the fact that we're in this era that we're in and he's tied to it. But I don't think that's a problem with Duggan's writing. That is just the era that we're in. But Duggan writes that really well. He is not my choice for Fall of the House of X. And when I read it, I feel correct about that. He is just really missing some big beats for me. Gillen, I'm going to give that one a B minus, and I will say it's when you keep bringing me A plus homework. When you bring me A minus homework, it feels like B minus homework. And when you bring me B minus homework, it's heartbreaking. And this is not A minus homework that feels like B minus. This is B minus homework, and it's heartbreaking. I think something is missing here. I think this is maybe kind of DeFalcoization, where he's been on some stuff a little too long and maybe needs to step back away from it. Not because he isn't a good writer, but because when you repeat the same word over and over again in your head, it just starts to sound like gibberish.
Schedule?
Don't do it.
Schedule?
And if I were ever going to say that a writer should say, thank you for the offer of this work, but I will have to say that I cannot take this job, I cannot write this book for you, it would be wrong. It would be the wedding issue of X-Men with Mystique and Destiny. It is wrong that Marvel offered it to a man, and it is wrong that a man took it. And so
a man wrote X-Men Blue.
Exactly. And after, I don't know why nobody's looking around going, oh God, we just announced Steve Orlando gets a third Scarlet Witch book. We can't keep doing this. It's insulting in the face of this, Gail Simone. I'm sorry, I love Kieran Gillen. And they are equals in a lot of ways, but she has seniority. She's Gail Simone. Gail Simone's getting the free comic book day story. Every woman that I can think of right now. Not every woman. Every Blood Hunt story that is a one shot for X-Men is focused on a woman and written by a woman, which is cool. They're all one shots. It's all people that got one issue, cool names, great names. Stephanie Phillips is doing the Laura Kinney one. I'm very excited about that. Newcomer Ashley Allen is doing a Magic one. There's a bunch of cool books coming out for X-Men. They're all one-shots. They're all written by women. Giant Size X-Men, one shot, written by a woman.
How can I get excited about any of those books happening during Blood Hunt when they're happening after Fall from the Ashes starts? How can I get excited about any of these books in June and July when I don't even understand how the X-Men exist? You know, it's what Peak Jonah is saying. He's been trying to catch up on Fall of X, but it's just so maudlin that not everything needs to be happy times.
No.
But it's just too sad. It's too bloody. It's too rough. And I just can't.
Yep. And again, I so often will say, like, don't blame the writers. They just took the job they were given. Everybody has to pay bills. And I try never to say, because it's that thing where I think it's disgusting when Drag Race fans say, well, that queen should have self-eliminated, so this clearly better queen should have stayed. That's gross. That's everybody is where they're supposed to be. The one exception I'm going to make to that rule, the one time I'm going to say this, Kieran Gillen should not be writing the wedding between Mystique and Destiny. A queer woman should be writing that. End of story. And that is one place where if that were the end of my career writing comics, I would say I can't do this. It's wrong. Like, and as a queer person, I can't do this. It's wrong. It's wrong to do to queer people.
And I think part of it has to do with the fact that what queer woman has written Mystique?
Yeah.
Full stop. The only people who wrote Mystique's solo title were Sean McKeever and Brian K. Vaughan. Then,
I gotta say real quick, I lied. One of those women in one shots is not being written by a woman. It's being written by Steve Fox.
Wait, who is it?
Psylocke. Of course it's Psylocke, the Asian woman. Can't find any of those to write those.
I do want to say that if we can for 1 second, I love being edgy and edgelordy. I can never say, when somebody has a bad text message leak, I have to be like when Tyler Posey's fat dick leaks. Like, I love being edgy. I'm making fun of myself. That's the whole point.
Oh, okay.
I am my own red band trailer. But the fact that they are counting 59 issues of Blood Hunt because 6 of them are more violent extra page double issues. It's Blood Hunt 1 through 6 and Blood Hunt 1 through 6 red band. And without that, it would be 53, not 59 issues. So we are literally at the point where this event that we're so excited about for having women writing women characters that we've already found a crack in is already part of an event that we're saying is double printing issues.
Yeah.
It's going to cost more than $215 to buy every issue of Blood Hunt in a period of 2 months. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm not going to be doing it.
So, all right, let's move on to the thing that I feel like, unfortunately, is basically Blood Hunt 0.0. There's vampires in it, and it's a big fight in the streets, I guess.
There's actually a lot of vampires in this. It's always weird when just you're like, the drug trade, and somebody's like, and vampires.
Yeah, okay, but can I ask you a question that's on my mind that I'm very fucking upset about?
Yeah.
I'm worried they're going to kill Elektra. I'm worried Elektra will be the thing that dies in Gang War, and that's why Daredevil #4 comes out after Gang War ends.
I don't think that will be the case.
I really hope not.
If it is, we will dedicate an entire show of coverage to that specifically.
We'll just call it the Maytag KitchenAid episode because it will be all about refrigerators.
There you go. Yeah, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I certainly hope not.
I just need to know why that issue is coming out after everything else is wrapped. 5 months after the event started, in the middle of a run for Daredevil that we don't believe can possibly result in, like, more Devil?
I mean, it could be because of a thing that happens in it that is not her death that can't really happen until we get to the end of Gang War. It could just be bad publishing. You know, it could be bad publishing. And now that we're there, you guys, the maps are absolutely fucking inscrutable in this. The maps do not match the timeline reality that you want them to. I don't know. I simply would not have included them, or maybe just done it in Amazing Spider-Man, but they're all over the place. An issue that in your own checklist, you made the checklist, you get to decide what comes after what. You'll have a map that has information from before this present moment. The thing that really frustrated me is Deadly Hand of Kung Fu, which I actually thought was great. I didn't love that it had to be Gang War to come out. I think Shang-Chi should be in his own books and having
the covers were better than the book.
The covers are really good.
The covers are so good.
The covers are really good. The book is not bad. The book is good. The book is not bad. The book is not amazing. The book is not bad. It's a good story. I think this could just be a Shang-Chi story. This doesn't need to be a Gang War story. And Shang-Chi hasn't had a book in over a year.
And what a great point. This is just a Shang-Chi story. So if you cared about his family, well, you can fuck yourself. This is just a Shang-Chi story.
Well, and then there's that too, which I was going to get to. But this whole thing ends with Shang-Chi keeping his territory, and just no matter the consequences, Shang-Chi will keep Chinatown safe. That's his jam. That's what he's going to do. And then the next issue of Spider-Man to come out has the entirety of Lower Manhattan owned by Madame Mask. There is nothing in any book where she says to Shang-Chi, I've won, or even makes a deal with him where she says, you know, you pay tithe to me and I will never touch your area, but technically I run it and I own it. The map just fills up. It's just a mess. I mean, like, that's the best example I can give, because that was the first thing that I saw where I was like, wait, did I miss number 4 where he cedes the territory? And no, it's just the maps are a mess. All the way back to my original point, maybe Daredevil 4 is just coming out later because the publishing of this has been a mess. And they were like, oh, but it's the after Gang War prologue.
Well, but everything else has an after Gang War prologue. Everything else in the back says, and see Gang War continue in the aftermath. And the aftermath issue is slated for after Gang War ends. This is the only one that is being counted as an issue of Gang War during the aftermath era. And it's been that way since November.
Right. No, and I'm saying, like, perhaps that is just a mistake that they tried to make look like something else.
What a disaster. Because, like, I'm not coming at your...
No, I don't think you are.
But I do actually also want to say, if the last couple of months have made it seem like Marvel is desperate to scrape the Bendis off their tongue, this seriously was like, take your Kung Fu family and fuck them. Take your exciting artistry and fuck it. I love Greg Pak, because Greg Pak is a guy who, number one, loves characters and loves storytelling. And I feel very much like Brevoort came to Greg Pak and said, this is what's happening. You know, we've lost Jin Yuen, and we've lost Marcus To, and we've lost a lot of these great, powerful voices from the Asian community who were shaping this story. And because of that, and the tepid reaction to the film, we want to go in a safer direction where we're not going to try and bring these very vast sort of, there's a tech one, there's a mutant one, incredible array of siblings over to the films. We're going to kind of erase them and back them down. And we're really going to play into these rings. But we want to make it all about the rings for people who are used to reading Shang-Chi where he doesn't have the rings. So they worked so hard to take the rings from him while still talking about them and erasing everything from the last 5 years. Oh, just try that again for me, buddy.
Yeah, It's a really good Shang-Chi story. The problem is we did get to a point where we established that the Shang-Chi brand is now the Five Weapon Society. It's now his siblings. It is this weird, like, how do you deal with your family? I mean, it's actually a really unique thing because it is something that people in this world that we live in deal with. Like, you do, we've moved beyond how do you deal with your, fighting with your little sister. And now we live in a world where, like, your parents get divorced, your dad has other kids, he lives with those other kids someplace else. They are technically your siblings, but you don't know them very well and you don't live with them. Now all of a sudden you guys have to get, maybe your dad dies and you have to execute his estate together, and now you are stuck with a half sibling.
And execute his enemies.
And execute his enemies, exactly. Now you're stuck with this half sibling you don't know. Your blood, you're supposed to be one of the closest bonds you can ever have, and you don't know this person. What a cool, unique thing that actually happens in our world that Shang-Chi was making into a huge part of its brand. That it was 5 unique characters. That we had little Esme, who was like a rich brat, who was very much like Esme Cuckoo. That we had his stupidly hot himbo brother. It was just all really, really fun. And I didn't even necessarily need to have them here. It was just a bummer that he goes, my siblings are all away doing other stuff, so you can talk freely. And then we just never bring it up again. I would have much rather they all dropped in at the end of issue 3 to be like, no, family always fights together.
And even then, that was something that I felt very much was an effort in this world, but not really as shown. I think what I'm trying to say is the only book that really seemed like it cared about other characters was Spider-Woman, and it cared exclusively about characters that aren't in the event. I want to ask a really gripping, serious question. Why is She-Hulk here other than she had a TV show? What is She-Hulk here to do? Is she here? Does she have lines? Does she have lines? Does She-Hulk talk? She-Hulk does not talk. She-Hulk is here like the female commentator on a European sports event. She is not given any dialogue, nor is she given the spotlight to have any.
I mean, I love the idea that She-Hulk would be there, but you got to earn it. I think she fits perfectly. But where has she been? I mean, I actually, here's the biggest problem. You and I refuse to read Rainbow Rowell She-Hulk.
Oh, yeah, because you shouldn't be hideously problematic and given power. That's a thing.
Yeah. So we might be talking a smidge out of our asses. I actually technically don't think we are.
It's not on the list. Is it on the list? It's not on the list.
No. And I don't, but I mean, you could convince me that in the pages of that book, a strong case was made for She-Hulk being, tied to New York, very aware of the goings on of Manhattan gang life. You could convince me. If a huge She-Hulk fan logged on right now and said, no, guys, like, they actually legit have her talking a lot about the gang situation in She-Hulk, I would buy that. And I would be like, okay, maybe we're a little misinformed. It doesn't buy back 2 things. One, no matter what, not everybody reads the book. In this case, nobody should read that book because Rainbow Rowell is not willing to say she made a mistake. And that's all it takes. I would read that book if Rainbow Rowell would just say she made a mistake. But also, because this is the thing, I'm not buying 50 issues of Blood Hunt, so you're going to need to explain some stuff to me. And Blood Hunt is going to get fail points from me every time somebody shows up and I don't understand at all why they're there or what's going on, because you tell me I have to buy their mini or, worse than that, their series before Blood Hunt started so I can understand where they're at and why they're there. She-Hulk is a really cool character. I think she plays well in this mix, but it does feel a little bit like we needed somebody plausibly invulnerable. Oh, hi, Robbie.
Hey, cutest boy in comics. What's up?
Don't catch up on comics. They're all bad. That's our point. No, I'm kidding. Some stuff is great. Some stuff is a mess. And yeah, I mean, She-Hulk makes sense to me, but it's kind of a waste of a character. I guess that is the long and short of everything that I'm saying.
Well, if I can just interact with a waste of using a character, because two things. Number one, the outfit they put Danny Rand in this outfit in this arc is like, I hate that the Iron Fist shirt disappears, and then sometimes it's just like a white tank top. Sometimes the gold dragon is there. The problem is I don't want him being the Iron Fist. If you could convince me that he is the Rand dragon, and he has bonded with some dead dragon, and his soul is now part of it, so he gets his own white boy kung fu. Sure. But otherwise, part of my frustration with Luke Cage Gang War is, shouldn't he be the lead of like Gang War instead of given a mecha suit? And oh, come on. Danny Rand right there is like, that is why so many of us were like, oh, just stop being problematic. You could be so hot.
It's true.
This didn't help, man. It didn't. Don't get him out of that shirt.
Oh no, but like I genuinely love him wearing a cosplay piece.
I guess a fan. I guess my worry is that just I haven't seen enough of the real Iron Fist in a minute, and another hero who absolutely could have been here. I actually think this would have been great with some Iron Fist and White Fox in the mix.
I agree.
Yeah, Luke Cage is a really weird example because like this is essentially Devil's Reign 2.0. Like this is bigger than Devil's Reign in a lot of ways because it's all over Manhattan. It's a lot more people, and the fact that it's so Spider-Man centric, and it's so like this all hinges on Spider-Man, and like the dealings that we've had with Spider-Man are the fulcrum events around which all of this is happening. And none of this would have happened if not for Spider-Man. And it just feels like the superpowered mayor of New York maybe has a little bit more skin in this game, and maybe ought to be calling more shots, and maybe like black man to black man speaking to Tombstone would be more interesting than Spider-Man, who just seems like he's desperate for Tombstone to be 15% a better person so he can have another father figure. There's some weird stuff here.
Well, and part of the weird stuff that has me really frustrated is, if you've been reading Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man for the character development, which has been a background element of his plots, then maybe for you, Gang War is a huge payoff. This idea that finally Peter Parker is taking back being Spider-Man, and he's not just being Spider-Man, he's being Big Brother Spider-Man and calling in Miles and being kind of like cool sibling Spider-Man to his equals like Jessica Drew and kind of Julia Carpenter, kind of. But this is, for me, kind of hard to talk about. And I wish I wasn't put in this position by life, but this is the worst John Romita Jr.'s art has ever been rendered in my lifetime. I don't think he or Scott Hanna aren't trying. I don't think that this is for lack of incredible talent. But holy shit, the man has been drawing Daredevil since literally I am in diapers. The man didn't draw Elektra in his run on Daredevil, would go on to draw her in flashback sequences, but this is truly some of the worst I have ever seen scans of JR's brilliant, I am sure in person, pencils look. This is uninspired inside.
So your problem is with everything after the penciling?
I want to think so, because John Romita Jr. like is one of my top 5 artists of all time. I don't know where the problem is, but this is ugly. This is actually not good. This is there is a failure here somewhere in the process. This is an ugly arc.
There are times where it's him, unfortunately. I do have to say that.
Oh my god, what is with the dimensions on Elektra's face and her mask? Oh my god.
It's not everything. He renders some beautiful stuff. Mary is sitting pretty under
She-Hulk looks amazing.
Yeah, there is some stuff is fantastic. Where I first really noticed it and had to go back and sort of take a restock is the showdown in Central Park at the end of 42. It's everybody looks so squashed and weird. I just don't quite know what to do with it.
It's also it's something I came across. I came across an issue of Tales of the Core from like 82, where there's this alien who is purposely kind of squat looking to make him look not quite human. When you purposefully make a character that is an alien look not quite human, it throws us off visually, and it forces us to think about, oh, that's what makes a human character or a non-human character, etc. When I take a look at some of the renderings here, specifically for me, of Tombstone's daughter, I am frustrated by the artistic rendering. I think her costume is already problematic in the first place. But yeah, the dimensions on this also, I feel bad saying this. I feel like I'm playing into some sort of terrible stereotype, but shouldn't crime be at night? Like, this is field day. This is cute. This is lovely. This is that white and bright. This is it's, I don't know. I also think the biggest failing of this event is to make me care. I want to see my heroes survive it, but frankly, if they all just sort of said, fuck it, we're over this, and walked away in this moment, I wouldn't throw a fit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
It's been tough with Gang War because, you know, whether it's been Luke Cage that I gave a B-, it's been Spider-Woman that I gave a C. Okay, let's delve into Spider-Woman for a minute. There's good, and I feel so bad saying this. Am I gone? Oh, I'm up in the corner.
Yeah,
Hey,
did
here I am.
you get rid of me? What'd you do?
I was like, oh, evidently he's a Spider-Woman fan. My biggest problem with Spider-Woman is there's good, but there's not enough good for me. And I feel so bad saying it, but when I think about Spider-Woman, this is the moment. This is her moment. And, oh, Jesus Christ, Cyborg, way to bum me out. Evidently, more UK crimes happen during the day. I guess the entirety of your people are great and also criminal during the day.
It's so overcast during the day there, though. You can't really tell.
It might as well be night.
Truly,
we would do crime, too.
We would also have absolutely no Spider-Man if it weren't for the UK. So I want to say that my biggest problem with Spider-Woman as a title is we get these beautiful moments, these lovely glowing, oh, look, women are friends. Women have children. I hate this book. I hate it. I didn't need woman searches for her baby. When
it was funny when Amethyst did it last season on Drag Race.
Kind of. I think what I'm trying to say is this is a funny bit. The biggest failing of the Krakoan age is that it didn't support. Yeah, Lisa Stansfield agrees with me. The biggest failing of the Krakoan era is that it didn't support the excellent. You know, you had a character like Dead Girl who literally could have made jokes about how fruitless all of Krakoa is. And they never went there because editorial was unwilling to sort of cross those swords. Here, Spider-Woman is crossing those swords hard, and I hate it. I don't need this. This is such a waste of my $4 fucking dollars, and I feel terrible because Steve Fox is so he's actually so talented. They put him on stupid stuff that he shouldn't be on because he is a gay man and he should not be writing for women. But he's so talented. He should not be on this. He should be doing this for an incredible queer character. This should be a woman's voice writing what it's like as a woman to lose her child, not what a gay dude thinks it would be like. He.
And it's so funny. I almost was like, wait, no, it's not Steve Fox, because again, I'm just like, are you serious? A dude is writing this. So this, for one thing, I also think you and I have a special distaste for this exact storyline because we have already dealt with this.
Jerry so much.
We have already dealt with this young man before. He was trouble then, and the fact that he has turned into the exact same little cunt is really disappointing. We had 20 plus years to...
This is Son of the Demon and then Damian Wayne being literally that child.
Yeah. So in the MC2, Spider-Woman has... Is it also Jerry there too?
His name is Jerry.
Is it? Yeah. Spider-Woman has Jerry, and he is a sickly, bratty little boy who just wants to be Spider-Man and eventually becomes a Spider-Man of some kind, but he is not Mayday. He is not Spider-Girl. This is her book. This is her. It's a Spider-Girl world, and Jerry just don't work. And it's like kind of funny, kind of cute, because it just plays into some children of great people stereotypes where like sometimes you're going to have a great parental situation and a great family and you're going to become Spider-Girl. And sometimes stuff isn't going to work out for you. You have a
and
single
you're going to
mom.
become me.
No, you have the great parents. Sometimes, you've got a single mom who's struggling. You're a sickly kid. You're going to turn into this whiny brat. And like, that just, them's the breaks. But Jerry's really annoying. And it was one of those things where I think Nico and I talked about, like, I don't know if the point here is that Jerry is really annoying and gosh, doesn't that suck for Mayday to have to deal with them? Or if Tom DeFalco was really like, and I've got this other cool kid, it's Spider-Woman's son. He's a bit of a wild card. And just the voice that he wrote him with was so horrible. But now we swing all the way up to here and they have done a thing that I only like to do if it can have positive results, if it can be additive and not subtractive. And I think it's subtractive when you create a villain. And that's aging up. I think artificial aging up is great when you have... Like, I would love to artificially age up Shogo, Jubilee's son, into a hero. We've seen him as an Iron Man type. I'd love something like that. But like Jerry, and the fact that he is doing exactly what happened to her, that Hydra got a hold of him, aged him, and turned him into Mamba, that they turned him into a villain, which the Hydra got a hold of Jessica when she was a child, and they were going to use her as a weapon. It's just kind of tired. And now the whole thing is she's like, I won't rest until I find my son. And women can do other things besides not rest until they find their son. I don't need it.
Having him be the point of bonding for Carol and Jess, who are famously friends. Like, it was so unfortunately male.
Yeah.
Self-insert. No, I'm gonna take it a step further. It's queer male self-insert to make the male son of one of the two most powerful superhero women in the Marvel Universe the only thing that two superhero women in the Marvel Universe could talk about. As a guy who thinks himself Invisible Boy from Tori Amos's Unrepentant Geraldines, yikes.
Yep.
It's tough because I also think that the biggest way, like, I make a lot of jokes about trend, but if, you are somebody who wants to TRT and, you want to handle your chems, do it, right? That's your body. Diamondback throwing back a bunch of Jekyll and Hyde pills at the last second to just be roided out and a bad guy for 3 pages so they could make he has a drug addiction storyline joke. That landed so clunk. He should have just been crazy. Giving him this for for the last 3 pages made no sense.
Fully agree. This book just overall, I mean, I am glad that this appears to be continuing outside of Gang War and will just be Spider-Woman after this, but I really hope we get the Jerry storyline wrapped up in the next 2 issues, and then we can go on to other stuff.
Do you think he got old so fast because he's geriatric?
I hate you.
Ultimately, I'm giving Gang War an average of a B-, but you could convince me.
Yeah, it's about B- for me too.
All right, well, then I guess we should go to Spider-Verse. Okay. Edge of Spider-Verse. This is tough because this is either the cock-teasiest cock tease to ever cock tease me, or this is going to be full-on penetration. And whichever one we get, I am super okay with it because it was $3.99 and it wasn't like the end of the world. This, what if Cyclops and Peter Parker merged into one person that had to go after Wolverine? Sure. The Spider-Bite story was not good. Unfortunately, it read a little too 1983 paint by the numbers for me. It was a great Marvel fanfare story, and it could have been a really cool Infinite comic, but the B story of this was absolutely not the beautiful thing that this cover and the art inside is. I am no Travel Foreman fan, but oh my God, stunning. The third story, however, do I enjoy when people disregard writers that I think maybe shouldn't have the power they still have? No. All old white men deserve their power, I'm sure, but
Heaven forbid.
But that guy who made fun of my comics logo, Peter David's work that's like currently coming out, was totally disregarded by what is clearly more important. Yeah, okay, maybe bratty Dom Boner a little bit. The Spider-Man 2099 story here, which says that Aranya is the coolest and Spider-Girl is the coolest and that Spider-Ham sucks. Yeah. I give that story an A. No, I give the whole issue an A-. The Spider-Bite story kind of pushes it to a B+, and that's unfortunate because I tend to love stories focusing on characters of color or women taking predominantly white male roles because it gives me an opportunity to engage with the idea of that hero's identity in new ways. It doesn't replace Peter Parker. It gives me some new beautiful character to appreciate in that standing. But the Spider-Bite story kind of felt like 8 pages of somebody was told, this is what you have to write, this is the ending, get to it.
Yeah, you're gonna find I agree with you on basically everything. I'm still really confused about Weapon 8, because it does look like Cyclops in terms of its outfit, and it fights with Logan, which is a very Cyclops thing to do, but it does not have eye-beams. It just has spider eyes under its ruby quartz visor, and it's not like it has Cyclops' powers with all 8 eyes, or maybe it does and they just never showed us that. I don't know, I'm very confused.
8 eyes, that's why he's Weapon 8. You know, I know a whole lot of people who have a very different reason for like identifying 8 with Spider-Man. Like, you would think it would be the legs.
Yeah, well, that's because I got to a point where I was like, oh, I don't think this is. I think everybody has been confused this whole time.
Thank you.
And that this is just Peter Parker as made by Weapon X, and he's 8 because he's just a spider person.
Yes.
And it has nothing to do. But then he is fighting Logan.
And he is somehow... Okay, it's weird because I would normally say somebody just going from Scott Summers to Peter Parker in an instant, that makes no sense. But as a guy who went from like straight Boy Scout to very bisexual Boy Scout in one camping trip, I guess I can see it.
I still can't see it. I'm just very confused. I liked this story. I want to give it an A minus. It might be getting a B plus because it maybe just needed one more page to be like, we've hyped this up for 6 months. Here's how this is in some way Cyclops. Because I just don't understand how it is. It is a visual reference to one of Cyclops' costumes, but if those goggles weren't red, it wouldn't be.
I love that you said if the goggles weren't red. When we talk about color theory and the way it defines characters, Cyclops is defined by blue. He's blue and yellow, he's blue and white, he's blue and red, but Cyclops is often defined by his quality of blue. True, there is red and yellow eras for Cyclops, but the predominant idea of his coloration involves colors that we see as good guy colors. Now, Spider-Man uses red in ways that we often find charged, romantic even, right? It's a romantic red. Seeing this iteration of Cyclops really pushes me to a place where thinking about the way that blue and yellow creates a context for a character. Think about how blue and yellow is definitive of the X-Men. Think about how black and yellow is definitive of the X-Men. Now, TK's point about the red being bound to his eyes is why so many of us, when we see, a poorly colored Matt Murdock in red sunglasses, a poorly colored Bobby Drake in red sunglasses, sort of automatically go, oh, that must be Cyclops. Because there is something so potent about those red glasses that even though there is a whole lot of color theory to the identity of Cyclops, and I just want to point out, as somebody who wears suspenders and also keeps his hoodie strings exactly here, there is something to be said about purposefully using things to create the imagery of gun holsters, the way that cuts your chest, the way that cuts your body, and how that is such an associated element of the visual of Cyclops. Kevo, I don't know if you would necessarily see this as Spider-Man despite the extra arms and the giant eyes, but I think if you looked at this casually, you would know this had to be Cyclops.
Yes, I definitely agree, and I definitely especially think that the coloration on it is so unique and so foreign from what the Spider-Man colors are. I love that it's an almost teal or turquoise blue. I love that it's such a leaning toward green yellow, such an orangey red.
I love
so
that green yellow
strikingly
point.
Yeah, and it's just so strikingly different from Spider-Man either way. And you're right, if it wasn't for the arms, it actually most vividly reminds me of, without the arms, a lot of the classic Wolverine Weapon X, him, Hugh Jackman walking out of the experiment and meeting Sansa from Game of Thrones at whichever movie that one was. Doesn't matter anymore, but yeah.
Days of Future Past, because I think it was the last one I enjoyed. Although honestly, getting to see any movie with Cage Club, our production networks, Joey Lewandowski is a dream come true, and we saw Dark Phoenix with him against all of his better judgment.
Against all odds, yeah.
TK, something that I think of a lot is, we bonded over, mutualism, but something that I've always affectionized about you is sort of the way that you look to Cyclops as a leader, and I look to him as technically a bastard. Because in terms of the psychic children of Scott and Logan and Jean, I'm Quentin more than I'm Cable. And I would love to know what this iteration of Cyclops as Spider-Man, which I think is in so many ways kind of like Cable fodder, means to you. Ooh, try again for me, handsome.
I don't know, because I don't know that it's Cyclops. I get that that's what we're supposed to think, but the issue doesn't do anything to convince me of that. It provides no real evidence. It is a very Peter Parker heavy issue where Peter is a weapon from the Weapon X program, and like kind of a body horror horrifying one. Like he really is a bit monstrous with the eyes. The fact that the extra limbs are biological as well. They're not just mechanical.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gross. The art is fantastic, but it is not pretty. So the whole thing, just I really don't know how I am looking at any version of Scott Summers. I don't know how I'm seeing anyone that also, like, he has some historical connection to Captain America, like that Peter Parker was at some point in the war with or stationed in the army with Captain America. So like this does not feel like any Cyclops that I recognize. I don't understand what versions of that character are in this, and I don't really know how to evaluate from there. So, you know, more than anything, it's kind of a wait and see situation. But, you know, as somebody who does, I think I don't look on Cyclops as favorably as maybe you think I do. But I do see his importance. I just don't see a lot of that importance in a lot of the Cyclops that I like. A lot of the beats of Cyclops that I look for in a particular version of the character, I see basically none of them here. So I'm holding on. I'm waiting to see. I'd love to get more stories with this character. Also, I didn't do my thoughts on the other two. Again, I totally agree with you on Spider-Bite. This felt like very much this movie character was popular. Get her in the fold, which is fine. If that does it for somebody, awesome. If Spider-Bite is your character and you're stoked that you got to see her in an Edge of Spider-Verse title, awesome. And then this last one, this indication that we are starting up the Spider Society, which we knew was happening. It was Web Warriors back in our day, but that's okay. We're doing Spider Society. I guess the thing that really...
Back in our day, like either one of us was reading at that point. Okay.
Exactly. By our day, I mean like a year ago when we were doing all our Spider-Girl coverage. Actually, I think it was 2 years ago at this point. What worries me is that Miguel gets a short list of spider people that he can bring on to the Spider Society, and Spider-Girl is on that short list, but she is not confirmed. The only person he confirms is definite is Aranya needs to be on it, and Spider-Ham absolutely should not be. And our girl, our beloved Mayday, has not been getting the love she deserves. I also want to throw out there that like Spinneret should be on that list. Annie should be on that list. I get why they're not, but I really hope this means that we're going to see more Mayday. But historically, she has not been treated very well, so I'm a little worried about that. But you know, even when just getting to see her image again, I mean, like I squee every single time.
You know, when we think about characters that define the identity of Spider-Man, you know, in so many ways, Spider-Girl is indicative of the women writers that would come on to write Spider-Man in that early 2000s era. You know, your Fiona Averys, your God, wow, there's one woman was ever allowed to write Amazing Spider-Man. Wow. But no, there really are a number of incredible women who have put their touch on Spider-Man, whether it's Kelly Sue DeConnick in the pages of Avengers, or it's anybody who has helmed Spider-Man in a crossover or a tie-in. And it would be really great to see some more women write Spider-Man and then get to maybe write Mayday, because she really is representative of what so many women felt. I could be Spider-Man if someone would let me. And, you know, when you think about the fact that over and over again, Peter was the one who was like, no, don't be Spider-Girl. It really is the patriarchy that told Mayday she wasn't good enough.
And we've always known that she is.
She really is.
So I
Because
guess
Falco Tom said so.
So I guess my question to you is, what does Edge of Spider-Verse mean for you as an event? Because we get them every year, or we get them pretty regularly. Not every year, but this is volume 4. So we get them pretty regularly, and there's always more stuff than just the Edge of Spider-Verse. What is that like? How do you respond to it? How do you feel about it?
You know, I love that you said that we get one a year, because we got one in 2014, one in 2022, one in 2023, and one in 2024. So we got one a decade ago, and then we've gotten one every year for 3 years. What is Edge of Spider-Verse? Oh, well, this is Marvel Contest of Champions. When I play Contest of Champions and the mobile game, right? The mobile fighting game. And I break out my 6-star Sunspot, and he's 6-star and he's unlocked. And I think I've gotten his special up by 20 or something. And my Sunspot punches Onslaught in the face, and Onslaught dies. Yeah. Beto, do it. Fucking, like, Beto is the bratty dom top I thought I would be at 15 years old. So seeing an angry little Latin boy do it, hot. Seeing him defeat Onslaught, yeah. Could that ever happen in the comics? No. Should it happen in the comics? No. If Beto defeated Onslaught, he could simply no longer be Sam's best friend, and they could no longer do crazy wild hijinks. So, for me, what is Edge of Spider-Verse? This is where I get to see Spider Sunspot punch Spider Onslaught in the face. It's kind of a wild opportunity to engage with the idea of what fandom has become in an era of limitless possibilities. You used to hope for things like the Kulan Gath saga so that you could experience a cool alternate take on your favorite characters. But now multiversity is the definition of what is in, or at this point, kind of what is old. So the multiversity of characters is what supports Marvel right now. I love the idea of Edge of Spider-Verse as something that generates, what if Cyclops was Spider-Man? Because we talked more about this than we talked about the last 5 Spider-Men in a row. But I need it to be Edge of Wolverine verse next, and then I probably need Edge of Electroverse, and then I would love Edge of Captain Marvel verse, and it's 4 different versions of Captain Marvel in 4 different universes. And not all Carol.
I didn't think about that, but this is something you and I have been talking about a lot. We're not super satisfied with the current status quo of the Marvel Universe as a whole, and just feeling like it's very difficult to know how this can keep going and tell any good stories. I can absolutely see how it can just keep going indefinitely, but I worry about story quality, and this is something we talk about. And we talk a lot about how embracing the multiversal and finding ways to tell stories in other universes, but find a way to put them kind of on equal ground, because what constantly happens in Marvel is people go, yeah, but it's not 616. That's a really cool story, and we can go there for 2 issues, but it's not 16. I want to leave. I always need to know what's happening in the main universe. And your point has always been, if we can figure out a way to say that all the other universes matter basically equally, and if we can tell stories there and figure out how to get them on the same footing as the other stories, then we can start to rectify some of this, like, we're going to give you the coolest story ever, but it can't ever matter for whatever, because we always have to go back to the same status quo. And Spider-Verse kind of is the place where Marvel does that best. Because Peter Parker interacts with these other versions of himself, and some of them get to be as big as him. Miles and Gwen are the best examples, but like it, the fact that everybody was really, not the ones that I liked, but other ones were really involved in the first 8 issues of Slott Spider-Man, where we did a Spider-Verse story. I think this really is a fantastic trial run for how we could do this for other characters in other parts of the Marvel Universe.
And I think that's even part of what struggles. I think that's even part of what makes the Marvel Universe struggle, what makes fandom struggle, what makes writers struggle. I was like, it's part of what struggles, because it is such a constant struggle. The iteration of who this character is to you cannot be the iteration of who the character is to at large fandom and to Marvel, as a company, as a comic franchise, as a film franchise, and God forbid, as an animated series franchise. It is so hard to find what makes Cyclops in the Marvel Universe, in the Ultimate Universe, in the Cinematic Universe, and now in the Ultimate Universe again, and X-Men 97. Like, it is so hard to pinpoint that. I'm glad that we enjoyed this story so much, but, if we never saw Weapon 8 ever again, I would just be glad that he gave us a new way to appreciate both Cyclops and Peter Parker, even if neither one was really all the way there. Okay, let's do it. I think that Ben Percy is so handsome. And I think that Ben Percy writes great dialogue. And I think that Ben Percy has cool stories. I think Victor Laval is an incredible writer who has never really been given a chance to show me that he can do all of the cool things I've seen Ben Percy do. In the limited opportunities I've had to interact with Victor Laval, I have found Victor Laval's work thrilling and engaging, and now seeing these two titans of industry come together. Wolverine 41 through 43 are perhaps three of my least favorite issues of the Krakoan era. I hate Quentin's head in a jar as a weapon against Logan. I hate Sabretooth. I hate this Victor Creed. Like, rape you, eat you, slash you open Victor Creed as so smart. I hate Graydon Creed in every way he's ever been written as capable of any of this. This is my worst fears about the Krakoan era. This is worst case scenario. This is a D across the board. And it's not because Victor Laval isn't incredibly talented. No. It is not because Ben Percy isn't incredibly talented. No. This is born of a generation of shock fans that want Laura's tongue literally ripped out of her face without her ability to heal, using leech as a gas to make her sick. This is literally using Quentin's head in a jar to hurt Wolverine. I kind of identify with Quentin in a lot of ways, and I have somebody I identify as Wolverine. This doesn't feel like an efficacious use of those ideas, and not just because I'm over personalizing, because they're bastardizing. They take everything. My friend Chad is so much smarter than me in so many ways, and in other ways maybe he doesn't have the same willingness to let books evolve. And he once said to me, making Quentin a good guy can only lead to bad stories. And this is correct. Yes, this is it. This is the cuckening. This is, what if we took everything about Riot at Xavier's and we made him Wolverine's weakness? This is a very capable series of creators making a lot of decisions that they clearly don't think will matter one way or another. Either this is where the franchise is going, and it would be going without them because of editorial, or editorial will turn their back on this. But 6 months from now, the Sabretooth War will not be able to make me this angry because it simply will not matter.
And I think what is so heartbreaking about that is that Sabretooth and Sabretooth and the Exiles felt like they might be two of the most important books to come out of Krakoa.
Bless 43 for all of the Necra.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool that those characters are back. And part of my worry is like, were they like, Victor, come back, and whenever those characters, the Exiles, appear on screen, you'll be writing them. I'm very curious to know what the involvement was, what the development process was. Did Percy go to them with this full-fledged concept and they said, okay, but you have to work with Victor Laval? Because some of this feels like Victor Laval wrote some of the most important stuff in the Krakoan era, and really, it was about this nation state's carceral justice system and sort of how we write people off and how we think about human dignity. But a lot of that stuff actually would apply outside of Krakoa. They'd kept Creed in the basement once already. There were already, should we just kill Sabretooth? Should we lobotomize him? If we have a chance to erase his mind and rebuild it, should we do that? We've already asked a lot of those questions in very, this is how we do it in the 90s, where it's just Boom Boom goes, well, what if we could save him by lobotomizing him? And Professor X goes, no! And then it's over.
It's all Leo Johnson on Twin Peaks in season 2.
Yeah. It's so, we weren't going deep in the conversation there, but Laval did, and he went into what would happen if you had this group that was nurtured into a family by the abuse from Sabretooth, and who were also cast aside by Krakoa for other reasons, some of which were approaching valid from a criminal standpoint, others of which were Xavier was afraid of them, and he put them in the hole to get rid of them. It was all really, really important stuff, and it really could have mattered. I don't know what Laval was thinking at the end of Sabretooth and the Exiles when he introduced the multiversal Sabretooths, and I'm curious where he wanted to go with that idea, because I could still see that, the idea of what there but for the grace of God go I, the world's worst criminal, was an interesting one. It was the first thing I thought of when we saw the multiversal Sabretooths. Maybe what we're getting at is what would we can actually see what Sabretooth would be in places where he was not raised like Victor Creed was in the universe that we know. But instead we come back and he has turned them into this army, and now we're doing a Percy Gore book, and Sabretooth has valid plot reasons to want to burn Krakoa to the ground and to be angry.
Sure, we all do.
Sure. And to be angry at the mutant nation state, and he's violent anyway. There was a way to direct this character back to interesting stories. To go back to, I like to torture Logan on his birthday, is just... The statement was made in the first issues of House of X and Powers of 10 that Sabretooth will always be a bad guy. He will always be a criminal. He is maybe irredeemable. And the question wasn't, what more can we see of that? The question was, what do we as a state that is trying to not be humanity, that is trying to be better than humanity, what do we do with this person? I was like, who is that comment from? It's from you. I mean, I also wonder about Mr. Creed from AOA and Exiles, a character I like much better. But I'm just not interested in whatever this is. We're 3 issues in. I don't know what the long game is here. I mean, he hates Orcus too. Orcus is coming after everybody. They're not going to let Creed live. So there's a much more interesting story to be had in Creed versus Orcus, but he won't even let the X-Men help him. He will be burned down by refusing to like even accept that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't know. I'm like pitching ideas here, but I just don't think the idea is 10 issues of the thing that you write on a trading card about Sabretooth, which is every year on his birthday, he tortures Wolverine. Cute story. It sounds so badass in 1991. Man, that guy's a killer. He tortures this other guy on his birthday every year. That's wild. But inflate that into 10 issues and like add female Sabretooth and bird Sabretooth. I don't know that it gets us anywhere. It was very cool seeing the Exiles again, but they got 4 pages and they're like, we're going to stop Creed. Okay. But then what? What does this matter? What are we doing with any of this?
I want to ask you, TK, Tim, a man, a man I respect and am in love with, a question, right?
What?
Separate Sabretooth from this identity. What if I said to you, we were going to look at a multitude of Tori Amoses. We're going to see what if Tori Amos was Why Can't Tori Read into success. We're going to see what if she was essentially Michael Stipe. We're going to see what if she actually was essentially Kurt Cobain in Nirvana. We're going to see what if she was Trent Reznor and Courtney Love, and we'll throw in a wacky one. What if she was RuPaul and she did a very KD Lang sort of pop dance but gender construct idea, right? Do you feel, as somebody who has seen Tori Amos in like 4 states with me, do you feel that this exploration of Sabretooth, a fictional character whose deepest thoughts are laid more bare than a real person who only shares what's in her music, do you feel this even begins to engage with the level of idea you would hope for from a Tori Amos multiverse here?
No, I mean, not at all. And that was sort of baked in from the moment we got Akihiro dismembered into letters. I kind of don't even know what to say, because all I will do is pitch you ideas for how this could be different. And we're not getting anywhere with that. But it's so funny because like you mentioned, the multiversal Tories and like seeing all of them, and the multiversal Sabretooths are there. But the whole point ends up being like, they don't like working for him. They're going to usurp the power for themselves. But boy, do they like, tearing out Laura's tongue, which is just another version of ripping Akihiro apart. Like all any of them wants to do is torture. And I don't think that needs to be the point of this is what's at Victor's heart that makes him so bad. Even to get one, because we're a third of the way through, so like to even get one of them who says like, my rage manifests differently, or yeah, well, exactly. What about Mr. Creed from AOA and Exiles? And maybe he will kind of show up and be the Deus Ex Machina of this.
You know what? If Magneto Xavier from X-Men 97 and AOA Mr. Creed and Edge of Spider-Verse Peter Cyclops want to replace our characters for 6 months so these characters can rehab on a beach in Maui, I would be just fine with that. Hop on a plane with Dorothy and Stan to Acapulco, babe, because this is some absolute shenanigans. I don't know how any of these characters can recover. And also, based on the narrative of X-Force and Wolverine, where is Sage? Where is anybody attached?
Well, I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. When is this taking place?
And how is this taking place anywhere near what's going on with Beast? Is it just literally Wolverine, you don't get to feel any sense of justice against Hank McCoy, one of your most trusted friends. Ugh! Ben Percy, if you had been writing in the Persicoa, the painful Krakoa universe that nothing else interacted with, this would be bangers, but it just doesn't feel like it's homogenous with the other things we've been seeing from minds like Kieran Gillen and Jerry Duggan, just to tie it back to a little bit earlier in the episode, and even Colin Kelly, who wrote in Edge of Spider-Verse and has been writing all over the Marvel Universe for the last 3 years.
You know, if they wanted to do Ben Percy's Grindhouse X and let him get out all of his, you know, gore desires, I don't hate the genre. And I love the way Percy writes. I love his Ghost Rider. I love his visceral comic grossness. I'm not like, oh, we need to be better than that. But like bringing it up right now, I don't know what to do with it. We just got our first hint in X-Force that this is maybe taking place kind of amidst everything else, which makes it better and worse. Percy very clearly feels strongly about the stuff that he wants to do. And I love that. He is somebody who I'm noticing that I just wish sometimes somebody told him no, and you have to figure out how to do it, because it does feel like he gets what he wants all the time. And like, I know nothing about what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe he's not getting anything that he wants, and this is just a perception, but I don't know anybody else who's getting 20-issue runs.
I don't know anybody who's getting 50-issue runs across multiple books.
Exactly. And so he's getting something that nobody else is getting. And I just feel like saying to yourself, like, I want to write the grittiest, nastiest, roughest Wolverine story. I hear where you're coming from, man. Wolverine's a gritty character. Wolverine's a violent character. There is gold in them hills. But we were doing something already, dude. We had plenty of stuff laid out already. Victor Laval was doing Sabretooth stuff. Wolverine stuff is happening all over the place all the time. And you pulled it all out and said, I'm going to do my thing. And if you're going to do that, I really need you to add something huge to the conversation that makes me think I'm never going to think about any of this the same way again. And instead, you just turned Akihiro into a birthday sign. And okay, you're very fucked up.
Blow out the dead sun.
Sure.
Right? You know, I think the thing I do want to say is when you think about Sabretooth, he is a man who physically intimidates Wolverine. Now, Grant Morrison had a really great take on that maybe Sabretooth is overall bigger, but maybe there are ways that Wolverine is bigger that frustrate Victor. That's amusing. Like, that's absolutely amusing.
Yeah,
We've all
that
watched
was really
that video.
funny. Yeah.
I want to make a point about Victor on the cover of 42. The cover of 42 is every betrayal of the entire Krakoan age I've ever needed. When I take a look at the cover of 42, look how big the fur is. Why is the fur that big? Oh, because his muscles are that big. Why then is the fur that big? Well, the fur was originally an example of the luxuriousness that Victor Creed is looking to experience. The bigger and bigger of his teeth, of his fur. This is all sort of superimposed ideas of excess. This is not actually saying, oh, well, he's a billionaire. This is going, oh, well, in the 80s, he was a billionaire. So he's a trillionaire. There is absolutely no reason that this man is ensconced in so much fur that Chrissy Hind would personally execute him. But we are in a position where Sabretooth has become this illusion of hyper-masculinity. You know, when we think about Lobo from DC or, you know, Wolverine from Marvel, we laugh because, like, oh, he's unkillable and every muscle is so huge and look at the veins and the bulges. You know, when we look at Sabretooth, we literally use him as a joke. And here he is, that joke being extrapolated into hypermasculinism And I can't help but think that the idea that this Sabretooth is more threatening is from the same crowd that think that the Donald Trump that hid behind a desk on January 6th was really threatening. You know, this is a man who is just big. Yeah, okay, sure. No, don't get me wrong. I was saying earlier, if you choose to, grow yourself, great, but there's only a certain limit, and you grow yourself so big, your heart's gonna collapse. And like, Sabretooth is so big, the fear collapses. There is nothing about a man whose fur is larger than him that is scary. Oh, no, I'm scared of Zsa Zsa Gabor. She's gonna slap me for giving her a parking ticket. Like,
You better watch out.
there are absolutely no green acres here for me. And I'm frustrated because, once upon a time, Sabretooth really did represent fear. He represented a sort of scary that was on par with a character like Elektra. And who I'm faced with here is just sort of like, what if Dolph Lundgren bit me? And that's not scary. That's just frustrating and litigious. If Dolph Lundgren bit me, I would just sue him. I was eating at Spago, having a normal day, having lunch with my friend Antonio LaFaso, and out of nowhere, Dolph Lundgren came up and bit me. I would just sue him. And that's kind of how I feel about this. I just kind of want to sue Ben Percy.
You make the best points. I don't have a ton more to add except for the fact that like we're doing this thing where like Wolverine is brought so low. He has seen everybody that he loves and cares for murdered, dismembered, completely destroyed.
Hold on, I just got murdered, dismembered, and completely destroyed.
I didn't want to say anything.
Cake said,
Tasty
Ava Gabor was Green Acres. Sorry. Happy belated birthday. EXO, I think we have found our own Mr. Creed serial killer of the multiverse over here. Tasty Cake is killing and absolutely taking absolutely zero prisoners.
Chomp chomp.
We know that by the end of this, Wolverine will get out of it fine. We maybe will lose Akihiro for a little bit before somebody resurrects him, which I wouldn't like. I hope that will be reversed early. Same thing with Quentin. Laura's not going anywhere. It's really tough.
No, she's in June. You just told me that Laura has a one-shot in June.
Yeah, this is Blood Hunt. So
versus a vampire that isn't the vampire that Wolverine already has a blood vendetta against.
Yep. So, exactly. We're already one. I've got one toe out the door already. I've got the Laura toe out the door already. I'll start getting the rest of the foot out very quickly.
With the claw.
And I want better for this huge vein of gold that ran through Krakoa than this. It's not terrible. It is not the end of the world, god awful. It's not so bad it's good. It's not it's just not the right direction. It's mediocre. It's unfortunate. It makes no sense where it is. And I'm very bummed that in this like time where all these events are happening and there is crossover stuff, that this is a thread that is totally outside the rest of the X-Men weaving, and that it's an ugly thread at that. So, okay, this is just what we're doing.
I think if anything, they could have done a really cool one-shot with like Edge of the Saberverse. And like given us this idea of what if Sabretooth really was some element of the multiverse that mattered. He's not. This isn't compelling because Wolverine is the thing in the multiverse that matters. And you have made it so clear that you are never going to default to the opposite character for very long. So even if this is the Sabretooth War, I see that it's not changed to Wolverine I see that it's not changed to Sabretooth 41 to 50 and is called the Wolverine War. This is still Wolverine's book, and it's the Sabretooth War, and it's a D for me, because this is a misuse of Ben Percy, and even if Ben Percy is executing the story he pitched from day one, there's just something about the tonality. There's something about the Pantone that's just one shade off, and I can't engage with this. These covers are hollow. Oh, splitting Wolverine and Sabretooth, they're the same man. Congratulations. You've literally entered Art History 101. Sabretooth in a big muscular pose. Oh, great. Grr. Sabretooth and Wolverine in what is quite literally a Barry Windsor Smith tribute piece. Oh, wow. 1987 is calling you're creative. And so I just don't feel like this is any of the people that are involved with this best work. And I don't know who failed or where, but I certainly don't think any of these creatives gave less than their best attempt. So this is the, in many ways, ultimate example of where everybody can try their hardest and do their best, but if you're putting oregano, lemon pepper, paprika, and cinnamon in the same pot, it's gonna taste like shit. It does not matter how amazing every one of these cooks is. But the Sabretooth War really across the board is a failed Michelin star. Try again for me.
Agreed.
So how do you feel about the Sabretooth War all in all? Like, you know, with this, knowing that this is the last 10 issues of Wolverine and that Wolverine is ending as close to the end of Krakoa as it possibly can, how do you feel about the Sabretooth War? Do you expect this to end with the white moment the way Generation X #4 did? Or do you think that this is going to give a really holistic closure, like in some ways, not many ways, Legion Quest did? Oh, try again.
No, I don't think it's going to give a holistic closure. I think I'm not muted.
Oh, there's a delay. My bad.
Can you not hear me?
No, you're good. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. I think this is just going to be a weird piecemeal mess. We'll bail out of it by June. Wolverine's going to have to show up in whatever the X-Men do next, and that's just kind of it. I mean, like I imagine some threads will be fully tied up, and some will be left out there. It's just kind of I feel like it's just going to be a messy ending. And meanwhile, Wolverine's still in the pages of the X-Men book, which is tied into Krakoa. So, like, Wolverine's just already there. Whether this has to take place before. It can't take place after.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying Wolverine is the American flag and is overexposed in every image?
Of course, we already knew that 100%. But and that's fine. You know, that's one of Wolverine's character traits is he's so popular. He's always going to be in multiple places at once. And I've always thought it was really stupid that they didn't turn it into an in-universe, like it's a power or it's like an effect that's happening to him, where he's like, no, like literally I am also with the X-Men right now.
His healing effect is so good that he's in multiple places.
Yeah, I'm listening to a podcast right now where one of the characters randomly just gets a second self, and it's a whole second body, but she is controlling both of them as though she is one person, and I'm just like, this is exactly Wolverine. And so anyway, like he's already doing the end of Krakoa. This will wrap up, and it will, whatever happens, it will be weird that he's not mentioning it in the pages of X-Men, in the pages where we see him, that he's not like, you guys just won't even believe, like Sabretooth just tortured me for days. So whatever, it's fine. It'll end. And then the question is, will Victor Laval be able to insert anything in here that ties to that ore, that, you know, that vein of ore that I said was so good, that gold, that maybe could be pulled from later? Or will this just be like, thank God we got it over with?
I think for me, the biggest frustration has to do with the fact that Wolverine was a character that was on the verge of a major transformation right before the Krakoan age. And for the betterment of X-Men, Wolverine had to regress. That is really where I feel the hardest part of all of this is. Wolverine could not grow with Krakoa because he had to be the stable thing. Wolverine represents just about as much as the X-Men line does on his own. He at one point had like 4 titles. He had 3 regular books and a monthly kind of like regular miniseries one-shot spot. So they decided that if Wolverine stayed in this stagnant sort of dusky, dank place, that the X-Men could grow. Now, the X-Men are in this dusky, dank place, and Wolverine isn't being given the room to develop any further, and I think that's part of where our frustration is. All in all, like I said, D, but, you know, for the quality, the creative ability, and the talent of everybody involved, I wish this was an A-. How about you, TK?
This is a C- for me. And yeah, I really wish it were better, but and maybe it'll get there. Maybe by the end I'll just be shocked at what they were able to do in issues 4 through 10. And I'd love that. I would absolutely love that. I don't see it right now.
And I think that's even part of where I am with the titles in Rise and Fall. If you can get me to a place where I feel like this is some sort of cohesive idea, if this was one recipe, and the food I'm going to eat tastes like one thing at the end, sure. But a 6-year recipe, a 5-year recipe, because I'm counting as far back as the Uncanny X-Men, that was the relaunch point with so many writers on it, because that was the point that they decided, let's get ready for House of X. I feel like if Age of X-Men was prelude to this era, was prologue, we've missed the point of learning anything. And I'm in a place where wanton murder and resurrection represents the high point of storytelling. I don't know. Let's burn the whole Marvel universe to the ground and start over. Let's I don't know. What's after Ultimate? Super Ultimate? Let's super ultimatize everything. Uber! Welcome to the Uber Marvel Universe. It takes you where you want to be, and you only have to tip 15%. That all said, TK, what is your big hope for the eventscape of the Marvel Universe going forward? Do you think they have a road back to success like they hope for with the MCU by removing Kang? Or do you think this is definitely a Flashpoint situation and kill everything except Hellblazer until you kill him, just to break my heart?
You know, they just talked about I think it was Avengers. Nightmare shows up and he's really going on about how this is the 8th cosmos. And it was one of those things. Nightmare's been showing up since X-Men, since very early X-Men. He shows up in the 5th issue. I'm talking 2019 of X-Men. He shows up in Jean's dreams. And then from there, we've been seeing Nightmare every few months somewhere in the Marvel universe. And I've been kind of wondering if there's something happening that involves Night. I was thinking, wouldn't it be a fascinating thing if ultimately it turned out, and this is a very H.P. Lovecraft thing, the entire all of existence is the dream of Azathoth, one of the elder gods. And wouldn't it be so interesting if this cosmos was somehow the dream, the collective dream of the abstract entities, and Nightmare keeps showing up because he now is seeing that this dream is a nightmare. There's something wrong, and we have to wake up, and that will reboot the Marvel universe. There's my crackpot pitch, but I've just been starting to notice a few places where the iteration of the cosmos is being mentioned more and more, and I'm wondering if that is because we're laying the groundwork for a reset. And I think it's time. We don't have a big event announcement for anytime soon. So, I wouldn't mind taking a little time off in order to get a really great big one that actually did something. But, I'm old, I'm cynical. I'm thinking, we might just be beating this dead horse a little more dead for a while.
And that is really where I am so attached to the DC universe right now. They kill everything. Sure, bye. And that's really interesting because the Marvel Universe lays out these 10, 20, and 30-year plans. The DC Universe is fine kind of burning everything down after 5 years. I think that with the idea that Crisis said at an arbitrary point, everything before this, different backstory, let's just go forward. That's exciting. I really wish that the Marvel Universe would take a page from the DC Universe more than they already have and say, hey, you know what? They reset. At the same time, I maybe wish that DC would take a page from the Marvel Universe more than they already have and say, you know what? Cohesion is attractive. We are entering a world where we are 10 years from Captain America being public domain and Superman being public domain. I do not want Marvel and DC to become one homogenized thing. But with the advent of the Marvel versus DC and the amalgam omnibuy editions, we are seeing a point at which... Oh, and I guess technically a year ago's JLA Avengers George Perez special edition. I guess we're really seeing the point at which these companies that are like, oh, these are the stories that are so protected and they're so sacred. I don't know. I think we're maybe 10 years from people being like, nah, son, Spawn. And when people look back, they're going to see, oh, wow, Neil Gaiman, who is responsible for so many amazing Spawn stories, was responsible for so many stories at other companies. And they're going to see, oh, like Jack Kirby. Like we look at Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko, who is so connected to Stan Lee, but as this separate identity, who is so responsible for these other things. You know, Marvel has tried really hard to keep something going for 100 years without any positive declarative resets. I don't know. I sort of think that anybody who's 100 years old has probably gone by a couple of different names and has been a nice guy and a mean guy at some point. I hope that the identity of the Marvel event can change. Because the Marvel event, as a point at which you tell me that things are going to be different for 10 years, is no longer working because now I'm 40. And so I've seen things be different for 10 years 4 times. I need you to inspire me. Bring me somewhere new. The titles I'm looking at are Phases of Claremont, Phases of 70s Kung Fu, Phases of Miller's Daredevil, Phases of classic Spider-Man, the multiversity that is seen at every company where you smoosh characters together and just not an inspired reinterpretation of classics. So like, this is 7 titles and I feel like I can paint them all with the brushstroke of your best years are behind you. I am really asking Marvel to consider that its best fans are ahead of it and to think about the stories that can come next. I'm going to tell them, and if Marvel wants to be a part of that, they can. But if they choose not to be, that's fine, because some company is going to tell the stories that are going to engage the next generation of fans. I don't think that these aren't the writers to do it, but I think that at the moment, corporate concerns stop Marvel from surrendering to that potentiality. And no matter what, the 3 of us, me, TK, and Kevo, are going to be at the forefront of that discussion. I just really hope that Marvel can be there too with this incredible stable of characters. TK, how do you feel about this situation that we find ourselves in? Try again for me, handsome.
I feel differently every...
Oh, no, you were good. It's my delay. You're fine.
I feel differently every 5 minutes. And I don't know. At a certain point, I feel I get annoyed with myself because something comes up. We get a new drop of news every day, every week, and I get annoyed all over again. And I gotta stop. I was annoyed earlier today when I saw Gods is dropping down is ending at issue 8 only because I just spent so much time hearing about how this is the future of the Marvel Universe. This is the end all be all. This is everything. And I didn't feel that way. And it was just really frustrating. And then, I tried to kind of let it pass. And then you and I were talking in the middle of it. I got the Psylocke credit and it's Steve Fox. So no, we can't even have 4 one-shots about women written by women. We got to throw a guy in the mix because God forbid Gail Simone get a full issue to herself and not the story in the Free Comic Book Day. And it's always going to be stuff like that until the moment when it's not, until the huge sea change, and those are just tough to see coming. And so I mean, I basically agree with what you said, which is the stories are going to happen no matter what. Great stories are going to happen no matter what. They don't need to be at Marvel. I've loved these characters forever. I would like it to be. I've been in places where I feel far more frustrated. I really felt like when there seemed like there was no chance that Fox would fold as a company or sell the X-Men, I was just like, Marvel's done with them, and that we'll never tell good comic stories again. I'll just never get these characters as minority metaphor ever again. So, things aren't that bad this time around, but like, manga sales are comic sales, and manga sales are destroying sales of traditional comics, and Marvel still is like, we'll dip a toe in the manga game with like another Spider-Man book, and then we'll re-release the X-Men manga from the 90s. But like, Marvel could be selling books on books on books if they did manga, and I think they should do some. And the fact of the matter is, like, if they're not going to do that stuff, that's fine. Like you said, I'll do it. We'll do it. Like, other people are going to do it. And I'm listening to a ton of serial stories in the form of podcasts right now that I think are telling those kinds of stories and the stories that I love. So I want this for Marvel. I'm sitting around waiting for them to show up and get there. I'd really like for a lot of the old guard and a lot of the boys club guys that are clearly running editorial and above to get the fuck out and move the fuck on. And until that happens, I gotta stop reacting so much when they do something stupid, because they just aren't gonna stop.
My number one reason for being very grateful that I have taken my time to come into my own is because a number of these people that we are like, oh my God, you've been famous for 20 years, stop, are like literally 39. And they just happen to get big at 19, writing at the right school in UCLA, and their teacher was Scott Snyder. And so they've been writing for 20 years. And we're like, oh, you're 39, die. But we're 39 and 38, and we're like, we haven't even started yet. It has nothing to do with your age, but it has to do with how long you've affected the quality of a universe. You did not create the Marvel Universe unless your name is 5 people. And they're all dead. So you at best have deeply affected the Marvel Universe. A lot of people deeply affect a lot of things. It's time to kind of stand down. Even Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, 4 terms? Fuck, that's too much for one faggot. And said, let's stop that. So, I think that part of what we're talking about is an opportunity to see dynastic leadership end and creative leadership begin. Nobody wants to be the person that says this is the end of the dynasty, but somebody has to end the dynasty. A lot of the money was on Prince Harry, but hey, I hope it can be Kieran Gillen just the same. So, TK, what was your number one? What's your parting shot here? What's your I am TK, and this is my statement on the episode we did February 21st.
I am waiting for the event that makes my jaw drop.
Oh, that's the whole statement. Oh my God, that's amazing. I guess I'm waiting for the event that actually conjures fear. It's so easy to say these characters will die, but it's so hard to make me believe that the Marvel Universe will be damaged. I'm waiting for the event that says, no, this didn't happen. These characters are getting spun into a separate imprint. We'll come back to them in 10 years. Period. In 10 years, no matter what, who these characters have become over 10 years will influence storytelling. So even if we recombine in a decade, everything will be different. Because at the moment, Bendis revolutionized Marvel 20 years ago, but everything feels identical. And that's not what I wanted. So I'm really waiting for an opportunity to see comics change. I'm waiting for that Will Eisner moment, that Stan Lee moment, that Jim Lee moment. Wow, a lot of Lees. But I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for the moment at which we all say, oh shit, comics are different now. Okay, sure. And whether it's going to come in the form of Grant Morrison making the JLA deities, which would reverberate throughout comics forever, or it's Alan Moore saying maybe superheroics are kind of policing, or maybe it's something as silly as Jill Thompson saying the embodiment of death is an adorable manga character. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that moment that makes me say, no, Nico, you've read comics for 38 years. Grow up. And that would be pretty cool. Until then, Kevo, how about you? What was the thing that you heard this episode in this 2 hours and 15 minutes that stoked your fancy the most?
I don't know about stoked my fancy. I feel like the theme of what I'm hearing this episode is, it sounds like a lot of holding your breath and waiting for what's next and waiting for something bigger to come along. It feels like it's in a very transitory period right now, and that can be really rough. So power to you guys for powering through everything and trying to make sure that our audience stays updated, even when you're kind of feeling like we're just waiting for some stories to finish and for the next stories to come in. Like a new tide.
You know, that really is the name of the game, because it all is about the waves of comics. It's about the generation that grew up on Superman and Batman, and then the generation that grew up on X-Men and Spider-Man. And we sort of see that play out over and over again. And you know what? And may the power protect you. Ay, 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 Zordon! In regard to Tasty Cake's comment, I definitely feel that.
Made sense.
Yeah, that totally justified my weird impressions. But until we come back for more bizarre impressions, I think we have Avatar dropping in the next couple of days. Then we have more of our favorite TV shows, more comics. This is a machine. And now that TV is finally back to TVing and comics are thoroughly back to comicking, it seems like we
Movies
can
are
find
back.
the movies are back. It really feels like we can get back to telling that sort of serialized storytelling we so much love. And I can't wait. But Kevo, until next time, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on the interwebs at Kevoreally. That's KEVOREALLY. Teak, where can the folks at home find you, sir?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can everybody find you?
You guys can, of course, find me at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION on YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram, Twitter, and more. We love to make the show for you guys. We really enjoy talking about comics and TV and movies, and it is so much a part of who we are. If you guys would like, comment, and subscribe, we'd have an opportunity to make that more for you, because YouTube has an oppressive algorithm. But beyond that, there's really three things we ask you guys to do. Number one, we ask you guys to stay safe. It's a scary world out there, and you got to take care of yourselves. Number two, be brave. It's a scary world, but maybe take care of others if you can. And number three, evolve daily, because who you were tomorrow is going to be way cooler than who you were yesterday, and we cannot wait to see you guys there. So until next time. Oh, that's all three. All right, bye.
Bye.